Certainty of death, small chance of success. What are we waiting for?
Fellas, I feel this is my lucky day.
Brilliant.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of Rankin. This will be a fun one today. Going to be move on to the 2000s movies with our opening scenes series. And we've got a great bunch of people here. We've got Brian here. Brian, how's it going?
It's good. It's good to talk about some movies in the decade I grew up with, the 2000s, and see how well we come up with the list tonight.
Also, here we've got Dylan. Dylan, how's it going?
It's going well. I'm excited. I kind of just wrote down all my favorite movie openings and then figured out which ones belonged in this decade because, you know, you have 9 years or 10 years of movies, so many to choose from, but still it feels limited because, like, how good does an opening scene have to be to get on a list like this? So it was really fun whittling it down on my own time and seeing what I came up with. I have some weird ones. I have some good ones. I have some, like, well-renowned ones and some deep cuts. So I'm excited to see what is brought up today. But I'm excited.
Also, you've got Alejandro. Alejandro, how's it going?
Going pretty good, man. I'm so excited to be taking a break today. This is the first proper day off I've had in like 3 or 4 months. So I'm really excited to be here to talk movie openings. This was hard, man. Like exactly what Dylan was talking about. 10 years squeezed into 12 spots. That's a lot of work. But hey, man, I warned Malcolm beforehand. There's going to be a lot of one specific type of movie on my list. So I'm very excited to get into this.
And last but not least, we've got Jonathan. Jonathan, how's it going?
Doing well. Yeah, this decade is a little tougher than the 2010s. I know how this works. I know how this operates here regarding opening scenes. It can be a good movie, it could be a bad movie, but it has to be a great opening to get you engaged with the whole movie, whether, again, regardless if it's good or bad. But let's have some fun. Little fights, but let's have fun.
But with that being said, how Rankin works is we each go around and nominate a opening scene from a movie that belongs on this list, and then everyone else will say yes or no to it. But moving on, going first, Brian, what is the first opening you're going to bring up?
I'll bring up one of the obvious ones. I'll bring up The Dark Knight for the opening. It opens up with a bank heist, which gets a few shots. You get character actor with Victor showing up, and it all ending up with the great character view of Heath Ledger Joker. It's such a great opening scene, brings you into the movie. So I'll bring up The Dark Knight.
Dylan, what do you say about The Dark Knight?
Yeah, I mean, Brian said it's like one of the obvious ones, but it's also one of those things where, as deep cut as we might get, like there's some that just belong on a list like this, and I feel like this is one of them. Just the way it's shot. I mean, it was obviously shot for IMAX, which I think if you've seen it in like an IMAX theater is even more elevated. Just the way the scope of it is, even though it's one single location, the bank and everything, the rooftop as well. But you know, it just feels so grand and so epic, and it really kind of sets the tone, as you know, Jonathan was saying. Like it has to set the tone for the rest of the movie to come, and I think it absolutely does. It shows you that this is going to be darker, hence the title, than anything you've seen. Even the other Batman movie before it of Nolan's, like it shows that it's just going to take a slightly different direction, even more of a prestige direction. You know, you get those like Michael Mann influences in there a little bit, and then you also get just that really great character reveal of the Joker, because even when you rewatch it, you have to kind of remember, wait, which one is it? Because it's masked, you know, and even with the masks, there's still such great acting behind it, and I think that's just a testament to how good Heath Ledger was at the physicality of the role, but also just how well Christopher Nolan directs it to kind of keep you guessing, okay, what's going on? Who are we paying attention to? Who is our focal point? And then when it comes to view, it's like, oh, okay, I get it. This is what we're in for. This is the Joker's movie. It's not Batman's. And I think that's kind of what this scene is doing, you know? So I'm definitely going to have to say yes for this one.
Alejandro, what do you say about The Dark Knight?
The Dark Knight is definitely on my list. You want to talk about heavy opening sequences, man? That's so intense going into that bank heist, watching the Joker systematically take down every member one by one and then make his getaway with everything to himself. That's awesome. And yeah, like my predecessors were saying, it sets the tone for the rest of the movie. That's going to be action-packed and hit you right in the face every single chance it gets. So yeah, The Dark Knight is definitely going on this list.
Jonathan, what do you say about The Dark Knight?
Duh. Yes. Let's move on. It's a guarantee. I mean, yeah.
Right.
See, like for me, I would have actually gone a slight no on the Dark Knight. Like I do like the scene, but to me, it's like the
Mhm.
character reveal of the Joker was the most memorable part of it. Like the rest of it just felt like it's just any other generic bank heist type movie. It's like there really wasn't anything that made it stand out. But it's gonna make the list regardless of what I say.
Mhm.
So,
I do
but
agree.
Dylan,
Dark Knight is like mid-tier Batman movie.
it
I
is.
agree with that.
Let's move on.
Anyway, Dylan was the next opening scene you going to bring up.
Oh, yeah, it's tough because like, do you want to go for the obvious ones, get them off the board first, or do you want to go more deep cut because you're afraid you're not going to get the chance to bring it up later? So it's always tough playing the game when you have like an early pick like this. What's so interesting is like, you know, opening scenes. Like I forget who said it, but it's like it doesn't have to be the best movie. It just has to be the best scene. And a lot of the times, yeah, Jonathan said it, but it's like a lot of the times, like you'll watch an opening scene, it'll be so good, and then the rest of the movie kind of sucks. So I thought it would be a fun experiment to like actually watch opening scenes of movies I hadn't seen and been like, okay, which of these reeled in my attention? Which of these made me want to watch the movie that came? And I picked one that I know the movie is well renowned, but it's just a blind spot of mine. But when I was going through and watching a bunch of opening scenes on streaming services, I was like, this is one where like I wanted to keep watching because it reeled me in so much. And it is one that is well renowned. So I'm not totally out of the blue here, but I'm going with Children of Men. It's a movie I've never seen. It's one of those huge blind spots for me, but it is one of those opening sequences that you just watch. And first off, it's a one take. I love one takes. I love oneers. They're great. I have a few of them on my list, but it's just one of those movies that you immediately get a sense of place and tone just visually, but then also just, you know, this guy's trying to get his coffee while everyone's staring at the news, and the news story is a little weird. It's like the youngest woman in America dies, and then you're kind of questioning, well, what does that mean? Usually you would see a news for like the oldest person. So what is the whole deal? The youngest person in this society is only 18 years old. Like, are babies not being born? Like all the intrigue that comes. And I'm sure people who've seen the movie actually know what I'm talking about. I still don't because I haven't finished the movie. But then, you know, gets his coffee, goes in the street, he pours the liquor into his coffee, again, informing you what kind of character this is. Where is he in his state of life? He's pouring alcohol into his morning coffee. What does that tell you about the character? And then, boom, explosion blast, woman walks out of the coffee shop holding her arm in her other arm because it's been blown off. It's just one of those perfect openings that I still haven't seen the rest of the movie, but I can say like that is one of the greatest openings to any movie. If it ends up being a piece of shit, I know that opening sequence has reeled me in. So it's just one of those cool like experiments I did, and of all the opening scenes I watched for that specific experiment, I was like, this is the one I would want to watch the most based on that. And I think there's actually a really great like film festival they did in California way back when, where you would go to the movies and they would show about 10 5-minute openings to movies, and then the audience would vote for which movie they wanted to watch based on the 10. And there was like very niche like B movie plots, so it would be like you'd watch 5 minutes of all these movies that you've never even heard of with stars you've never even seen, and then the audience got to vote on which movie they watched, and they showed the rest of the movie, which is like a really cool experiment. And that's kind of what I did. And this was one of those movies where I'm like, I should have seen it by now. I don't know why I haven't. I'm living under a rock, but that scene is dope. So I'm gonna go Children of Men.
Alejandro, what do you say about Children of Men?
First of all, I mean, some movies are going to fall through the cracks. Like, that's just what happens, especially when you're talking about a decade's worth of movies. I also have not seen Children of Men, so I can't, in good faith, say yes because I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any part of the movie. I wouldn't say no, but just based on the fact that there are so many obvious answers, like there are great opening sequences that resonate with everyone. So Children of Men is going to get a no from me by default, unfortunately.
Jonathan, what do you say about Children of Men?
It is 100% yes, because they're living that nightmare already, and it gets worse and worse for everybody involved in the world, because it's not just a nightmare about, you know, of having babies. It's really just, you know, chaos. It's chaos, and it's affecting everybody. So that tone is bleak, and it becomes bleaker and interesting as it goes along, whether you like it or not. So yes, 100% on Children of Men.
Yeah, I haven't seen I hadn't seen Children of Men in a while, but like when I was doing research, I went looked up a few lists and saw this one pop up on a few of them. So I thought, you know what, I'll actually watch the opening and get myself at least familiarized with it. Like, and Yeah, like, it is. It's really good. I mean, like it definitely sets up the world. And it doesn't want to do, so it's going to be. Why not just say about the opening?
Yeah, I haven't seen it all, but we watched the scene while Dill was pitching it, and Dill told me it's going to one take scene, great explosion. I'll give it a yes.
Children of Men is going to make the list.
Great pick.
Alejandro, what is your first movie you're going to bring out?
My first movie is going to be a slightly different direction. Like I said, I have one specific type of movie that is going to be coming up frequently on my list, but number one on my list is going to be probably the most heartbreaking opening from the 2000s. I'm going with the animated picture Up. That movie is absolutely
Yes.
amazing, but that opening sequence, dude, if you see nothing else about this movie, this opening sequence will send you on a roller coaster for 10 minutes. All we have, I don't even think it's a 10-minute sequence. All we have is these kids meeting each other, growing up, growing old together, and getting handed the absolute shittiest hand by life until this old guy becomes this jaded, isolated person. Because if you introduce that character without all that backstory, audience is going to hate him. That 10-minute sequence gives you everything you need to empathize with Carl, and that's why Up, I think, is going to get on this list.
Jonathan, what do you say about Up?
It's a universal opening sequence. It will affect not just married people, older or younger, but also kids as well. That's how good it is. I think it's a masterpiece, that opening sequence. Whether you think it's a masterpiece or it's just a mid-tier Pixar film, it's just one of the most remarkable opening sequences of the 2000s. And I think it definitely won animated feature. I think because of that sequence alone. I mean, and the Giacchino score, it's wonderful. Another one that is a slam dunk. Slam dunk, yes, on Up.
This is going to be a really short list.
We never know.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Up, like I'm not a big fan of the movie, but I think the opening sequence is pretty good. And yeah, and funny enough, I mean, it's like whenever anyone talks about this movie, a lot of people will say it's like, the opening 10 or so minutes is great. The rest of the movie,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes on the opening scene to Up. Brian, what do you say about Up?
Yes, 100% yes. Great score for the scene. Also, Jonathan Frost mentioned is also Best Picture nominated that year as well at the Oscars. Deserve to be nominated, so it's a yes.
And Dylan, what do you say about Up?
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually really like the whole film. I do think, honestly, because of that opening, the rest of the film works really well because there's always that consistent callback. You know, whenever he talks to the house, he's talking to the wife. And again, if you don't have that first, as Alejandro was saying, if you don't have that first 10 minutes and it just opens with the old man in a house, those moments don't hit. But because of that opening, those moments hit, and especially that final shot where it's on the waterfall. Like, that whole movie for me works. I think it's the perfect, blend of the kids stuff you would expect, to take your young one to, with the bird and the chasing and the dogs, but it also has that emotional heft. But we're talking about the opening. Sorry, I was going on a tangent on the rest of the film, but the opening does inform the rest of the film in such a great way. So I will say yes.
Yeah. If that Up is going to make the list, Jonathan, go to you for your next nomination.
Well, first off, Chad, you're happy. Chad Webb, you're happy. An animated film made it under the opening scenes episode.
Well, he didn't have one last time or something?
Not last one, because it was very tough.
I don't have anything to say about it.
No, there was like I didn't think there was like one that stood out in my opinion. But I digress. Let's move on. I'm gonna bring up a movie that was released in the same year, 2009, and I think it's the complete opposite tone of Up, and I'm gonna nominate Inglourious Bastards. Oh yes, Chapter 1, and then you see the vast field. You see a Frenchman just doing his work on the farm, and then there's a car coming, and then the piano score is playing, and it becomes tantalizing. Just that buildup where that car is approaching the farm, his daughters, and himself. And then we see this figure, Hans Landa. He's initially charming, and then once they go into the house, he basically asks questions. Gets along, drinks milk with him, and they smoke pipes. And then once this conversation, this initially charming conversation, turns a little scary, then it becomes an interrogation about him potentially hiding Jews in his house. And then once that camera goes closer and closer to Hans Landa's face and also the Frenchman's face, holy moly, it becomes great. And then the ending, obviously, it's sad. But it's a masterful opening sequence of tension and dialogue that sets the tone for the whole movie. I mean, a little boisterous, but it sets the tone for the whole movie. And then it becomes a phenomenal movie, in my opinion. So, Inglorious Bastards.
I think you're
Malcolm?
muted. Oh, there.
I was muted. I mean, not because I was watching this scene, but because I was looking up something else. Yeah. Inglorious Bastards. This is another one that I watched like the opening scene for just to get films. I haven't seen it in a while, and yeah, it is a really pretty like impactful scene, like and it definitely works. So it's a yes for me. Brian, what to say about Inglorious Bastards?
Yes, it's one of the main iconic scenes of 2000s. Another great character introduction that Jonathan mentioned. So yes,
Dylan, what do you say about the opening to Inglorious Bastards?
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious picks are obvious for a reason. I think it's because they're really good, and this is one of those. Like, I think when you think like the big three, I think we've got Dark Knight, Up, and Inglorious Bastards are like the three I think people think about when you think about like what's the best opening to not just this decade, but like what's the best opening to a movie. People will probably pick out one of those three, just instinctually, because it is that iconic character introduction, sets the tone, but also kind of shows off Tarantino's great writing right off the bat. It doesn't need to like brew and sit in the vibes to get to the great like meat of it. They just get right into it. Yeah, it's hard to watch, but it's a great opening. So I would give it a yes.
And Alejandro, what do you say about the opening to Inglorious Bastards?
I was talking about before we started recording. I was saying about how Reservoir Dogs is my favorite Tarantino film. Inglorious Bastards is second or third, depending on the day I'm having, like tied with Django Unchained, but probably solely because of that opening sequence. Man, Christoph Waltz absolutely kills it in that interrogation scene. It's so subtle and so intense. Like, you're drawn into the conversation because that's Tarantino's dialogue, but also Christoph Waltz's performance. Like, you get the sense that dude is in control the entire time. So yeah, Inglorious Bastards is on my list too.
I think Inglorious Bastards doesn't make the list.
That's a bingo.
So I'm gonna go for this one first, because this is one I'm not sure how this is going to play out, but look, one of my movie guilty pleasures is the Scooby-Doo movie. I think the opening to the Scooby-Doo movie is great. Like, it's a perfect sort of live action interpretation of like the whole catching a ghost thing, and it sets up these characters and the way we're going to see them in the movie, and I just think it is perfectly done, and I think it just definitely it definitely sets up the movie, like showing these this team on if I remember rightly, I think it was their sort of last like mission before they sort of going
yes,
to retire
because
and
they
all
split up
that.
afterwards.
So like see them doing one last mystery before they sort of go their separate ways and all that. I think it all just works perfectly. Like, and it just feels like you're watching a live action interpretation of Scooby Doo. Depending on what your feelings are about the rest of the movie, it doesn't matter. The opening, I think, is still good enough to be on this list. Brian, what do you say about the opening of Scooby Doo?
Yeah, I'm more of a Scooby Doo 2 person, but for the opening scene, I do quite enjoy the opening scene for Scooby Doo. As Malcolm said, it feels like the cartoon. You see Shaggy and Scooby the Bell. You see Velma giving hints. It sets up the tone of the movie, so I'll give it a yes.
Dylan, what do you say about Scooby Doo?
Yeah, this was one that I considered putting on my list. I ultimately didn't, just because I think there's so many great great openings. There's 10 years of movies to choose from, but I do want to give credit where credit is due, because this is an early James Gunn script that, like, I think he gets the humor well, because it's like you got to cater it to kids, but also the adults that grew up with it, and you give it a little bit of that edge, that like little sexual innuendo a little bit. But I think the charm of this scene and this movie as a whole is just seeing the cast for the first time interacting with one another, because it is perfect casting. You got Sarah Michelle Gellar in there, Linda Cardellini, Matthew Lillard, and Freddie Prinze Jr. Like, those four just work so well together, and they have such great chemistry. But I think that might just be a strength on the casting team more so than this scene. This scene's amazing because it like introduces you the audience to them for the first time. But I feel like rewatching the scene isn't, I don't get that spark that I did the first time, because now I know these characters in these roles, and it's not that awe that I get. And it is kind of recreating something that we've seen in the cartoons. It doesn't have that originality factor that some of these other films do. So I'm going to say no, but it is a good opening sequence, especially for a movie that I think is actually underrated. I think it's probably one of the best sequences of it, but I'm going to say a slight no.
Alejandro, what do you say about Scooby Doo?
This movie absolutely slipped under my radar, man. I totally forgot that this movie even existed. But flip, man, you absolutely hit the nail on the head, Malcolm, talking about it. It feels like a Scooby-Doo cartoon when you open that movie. Everything is just nailed out perfectly. Like, they capture the original essence of the cartoon into a live-action show, and you can't take that away from it. Ah, man, see, and I have a live-action cartoon adaptation on my list that I thought was good. This one's better. I'm leaning towards yes on this one.
Jonathan, what do you say about the opening to Scooby Doo?
We'll say yes.
This is the top 12 opening scenes of the 2000s. This is like 50th or something, like 50th or 60th. I don't believe this. I personally think we're going to waste a spot on a good movie, on a great opening sequence. I don't think it's a great opening sequence. It's fun, but all I think is just a live action replication of the cartoon, and that's what I took away from it. That's it. I mean, you could put this in the middle of the movie, and it's the same thing. It's yeah. I just look. It's a fun opening, but I think you could have put it anywhere else in the movie, and yeah, that's basically my argument. And I would have gone no, but it's not a bad opening. It's just you could put this anywhere. You could put this anywhere. So
Shit.
yeah, no. So
Yeah.
that baffles me. Oh, we're gonna get some heat from the comments. Oh god.
That's kind of why I'm here.
Yeah.
Wait, did it make it on? Did Brian say yes?
What?
I said yes, and Alejandro said yes.
Alejandro, yes,
but Alejandro, like, I haven't seen him as much, so yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I brought it up not thinking it was going to make it on. I wanted to talk about it anyway. And to be fair, like with the 2010s one, we didn't actually get. There was some things that didn't make the list that we thought we were going to get heat on. That we really didn't. We didn't really get any heat on that last one. So, but anyway, Brian, we go back to you. What is the next movie you're going to bring out?
Yeah, I'll see how this one goes. I'll bring up the opening to Austin Powers and Goldmember. The opening feels is like an action film, but then you see it's Tom Cruise as Austin Powers, Kevin Spacey as Dr. Evil, but it works. It's a great opening scene. Then after you figure out, oh, they're filming an Austin Powers movie, Austin Pussy. So it's a fun opening scene. Then you get the opening sequence with the opening credits. It's a lot of fun. So Goldmember gets my nomination.
Dylan, what do you say about Austin Powers and Goldmember?
Yeah, so this is one I did like a first wave, wrote some down, and then I went back and like I said, watched a lot of opening scenes to movies I've never seen. I actually haven't seen Austin Members and Goldmember, but I did watch this opening scene for this. it's really tough as someone who says Steven Spielberg's my favorite director to say no to an opening sequence that like has one of the great like director cameos in movies, because he's
Exactly.
directing the film. Then he gets all like snippy and bratty with Austin Powers, and then Austin Powers goes in that dance number, and then you see Steven Spielberg leap out of his director's chair and do like a cartwheel back handspring, obviously a stunt double. It's a great opening for that movie, and it is a very inspired opening for like comedies, and you know it does a lot of stuff really well. It's just I have it on my list of 25. I just counted, there's 25 titles I wrote down, but like for me to look at, you know, we're already almost halfway done with the list. There's still so many other great ones, and ones that I think are just more iconic. I think this is a great opening if we're looking for best opening scenes in comedies of the 2000s, but in the general scope of 10 years of movies, I'm gonna give it a slight no, but it is a really fun opening, really cool, and I'm glad you brought it up, Brian. But I'm gonna say no.
Alejandro, what do you say about Austin Powers and Goldmember?
I echo everything that Dylan said. Like, I wrote this down, and it just slowly climbed down my list until it fell out, man. Like, I love the Austin Powers openings just in general. Musical dance sequences all the time, please. But ultimately, there were several other movies that made the list that knocked it out. So Goldmember is going to get a no from me, but a strong honorable mention.
Jonathan, what do you say about Austin Powers and Goldmember?
See, this one I would have reacted a little positively to, because the opening is not bad. It is a funny one. Yeah, I put it like honorable mentions as well, Goldmember, even though I don't like the movie. But it is a fun opening. I actually laugh at it as a person that I'm not a fan of the Austin Powers movies. But the opening's fantastic. So I'm gonna go with slight no, but it is a fun opening honorable mention. It's a good one. Good choice though.
Yeah, no, I mean, as someone who is a fan of all the Austin Powers movies, this is. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't think of this one like when I was looking at ones. Like, I only did like a list of like just over 20 as well. It was like it was also one of those ones. If someone brought up something that like I didn't have on my list, like I would have sort of looked at my list, seeing where I would slot it into, whether I'd say yes or no to it. Unfortunately, it is going to be it's going to be a slight no on it, just because there's a lot that I've got on my list that I think deserves to be on there as well. So yeah, but that Ozpowers and Goblins not going to make the list. Dylan, we go to you for your next one.
Yeah, it's tough because there's still so many, and I think like my big three like obvious ones that I was like, well, those should be on the list. I have on the list, so I'm just looking at like what could I fill in here. I'm gonna go with one that I think for opening a movie, you really have to not only set the tone, but you also have to kind of, if it is a very kind of out there premise or very not confusing premise, but like if you're tackling a lot in the film and you really want to like lay it out for the audience of like this is what the movie's going to be in a really interesting visual way, I'm going to go with a film that it might not be on everyone's radars, but I think is really great, which is The Hours from 2002. Stephen Daldry film, nominated for Best Picture, obviously got overshadowed by Chicago and Two Towers and all that, but it is one of those films that I think is very underrated. It tells a story, obviously, three women at three different time periods, one in the 20s, one in the 50s, one in the 2000s, early 2000s, and they are connected, like there is connection there, but it is kind of more of an anthology film, but not in the anthology film way of like, you're going to watch this chapter, then this chapter, then this chapter. It weaves in and out between three different storylines. And I think what the opening sequence does so well is it shows the audience all that you need, all the information you need to know in showing all three of those time periods. Each of the lead women in each sequence is shown lying in the bed at the same exact posture, same exact position, in order to inform the audience that all these women have this similar shared sense of depression, because this is a movie that basically deals with mental illness and depression, but through generations, and showing that it doesn't matter when and where you were born. This is how depression just exists in the human nature. And I love how this opening sequence illustrates that. This beautiful music score, beautiful way they establish just the scenery for each place to be like, this is a completely different place than this is, but they're all connected because all these women share something. And I like how it communicates all that without words in that first like few shots and sequences. It's not a very long opening, it kind of just then goes right into, business as usual. But I think that very opening is very, very smart in how it introduces these three women and shows their connection without specifically saying, oh, and she's related to her and she's reading her book. That comes later, but you can just see based on the visual language what these women have in common and what the kind of tone of the story is going to be, and why we should be taking this as a larger picture story instead of looking at it as three individual stories. We're looking at it as a conjunction, which I think is really cool. So I just think it's a really cool opening. It's a very interesting one. I was between this and one other one that does a similar thing. So I'm going to go with the Hours because I just want to bring it up. It's probably not going to make through, but hey, we're in the middle of the list period where I can, start throwing out some deep cuts,
Alejandro, what do you say about the Hours opening scene?
This is another movie that I have not seen, nor have I ever heard of it. But that was a hell of a pitch. I'm definitely going to watch it. But because I haven't seen it, I have to say no.
Jonathan, what do you say about the Hours opening scene?
Okay, so pardon me, because there are times, even in the last episode, where I have to look down and I have to look at the opening scene or sequence very quickly to remember. And it's not a bad opening sequence. It's interesting. Yeah, I have seen the Hours. It's fine. It's a fine movie. The opening is, it's pretty good. I think it's a very good opening sequence. I don't think it's one of the best. But I think that's an underrated pick that should be on, on websites, to be honest. And that's a compliment. And I'm gonna go a slight no, but that is a really good pick on the Hours.
Like this is actually one I did see on a few lists when I was looking this up. And it's one that's like at first I just like I'm not a big fan of the movie in general. Like I think it's fine. But I didn't actually rewatch the opening. Because I thought, oh yeah, it's probably not going to make it come up. So I'm not going to need to. But I did actually just quickly watch it. Just then it's like, it's fine. Like it's one of those ones that So I think the way they staged it so that the women are sort of lying in the very same position, like that would have taken a lot of work to get that situated exactly right. So I'll give it credit on a creative scale. It's one of those ones like if this is an opening scene they put in the theaters, I'll probably see the opening as like I don't think I'll even watch the movie. To be honest, so it's gonna be a no for me.
That's fair.
But Brian, what do you say about the Hours?
Yeah, I haven't seen the film, but I clearly seen the scene. It's okay. I'll give it a no.
So with that, Alejandro, go to you for your next nomination.
Okay, I have to do something kind of complicated because I originally went with one movie in this trilogy, but all of I don't want it to be a situation where all three of these movies make the list individually or worse. Only two of them make it because The Lord of the Rings is such a huge epic, right? Like from start to finish, those movies roll one right into the next. They're all called The Lord of the Rings. Now, Fellowship has a great opening with Galadriel giving the entire exposition about the ring and everything like that. I personally think Return of the King's opening is better with Gollum's backstory, having Gollum tell Smeagol's backstory. That entire sequence is nightmare-inducing. But Two Towers just opens with a dream sequence of what happened in the last movie. I find that to be something of a cop-out. That's cool when the movies are a year apart, but when you're going back and watching them, it's a little bit distracting. So I don't want it to be a situation where two of them make it on the list and one of them doesn't, or all three of them make the list in individual spots. I want to nominate The Lord of the Rings, the movie.
So the whole trilogy.
I am going to ask you to pick one of the three.
Pick the right one.
Return of the King is better. Yeah, I'm going with Return of the King. It's a much better opening sequence. But here's the reason. It's because Galadriel throws so much goddamn information at you. We don't even know who's talking at the beginning of the movie. Imagine you're watching this movie for the first time, as all of us are not, right? We're on our 16th or 17th viewing of this movie, right? So all of this information that's getting thrown at us is why I think a lot of people have problems with Fellowship of the Ring. It's too much information getting thrown at you. Smeagol and Gollum's backstory about killing Deagle, being cast out, turning into this creature, man, that is a powerful opening sequence. I'm going with Return of the King.
Jonathan, what do you say about Lord of the Rings: Return of the King?
I wrote down the Fellowship of the Ring because that's
So
the
did I.
because that's the opening scene that got me into the world, got me into the world and the movies. Because without that opening sequence of the Fellowship, I would have just ducked out. Now the Return of the King opening sequence, it's very good. But the thing is that I think I kind of got it even before they showed the what Smeagol turns into. I kind of got it in the Two Towers a little bit, and also in the Fellowship of the Ring. So while very good, it's really just Smeagol killing somebody. I mean that's basically it. I mean I just it's fine, and then he just turns into a goblin basically. But I'm gonna go a slight no. Yeah, I'll go a slight no. But if someone else brings Fellowship of the Ring, then we'll have a different conversation.
Yeah. I'm actually the opposite of Jonathan here, because and yes, I know I directed the movies. I should, but I actually really like the showing of Gollum's backstory in Return of the King. I think that was the perfect place to put it as well. Like, because otherwise you would have been starting this whole dark and dour thing. Like, so starting it off rather lightly, showing this backstory and like how Gollum sort of became this creature. I think it was done really well, and I think it is a great opening, and yeah, it, and I do think out of the three, it is the best one too. So, but Brian, what do you say about Lord of the Rings: Return of the King?
Yeah, the opening is good, but I agree with Jonathan to have Fellowship of the Ring as well. Cause you like to probably more for Fellowship. But if this is doing one that makes it, I'll be okay with it. So I'll give a side no.
So, Dylan, it falls on you. What do you say about Lord of the Rings: Return of the King?
Oh, this is tough. I also wrote down Fellowship because I was thinking along the same lines of Alejandro, where like to represent the trilogy as a whole, this is the opening scene that opens the trilogy, and like kind of the Fellowship representing the whole thing. So it's tough because I don't want to say no, and then we don't have any Lord of the Rings representation on it. But I know other
I'm just
people have
glad
other
we all
movies they
agree
want to
that Two Towers doesn't count.
bring. It's tough because the Return of the King opening is great, I think, on repeat, whereas you don't necessarily need the information if you've seen it before from Fellowship. But I do think there's something to be said about, like, if this is the first time you're taking in this information, honestly, it's so much information that I'm surprised they only get it across in 10 minutes. And the fact that they do is really a testament to how well they tell it. This is tough. I will say, because I do prefer the Fellowship opening, I will say no to Return of the King, but like if we want to, I almost kind of want to do like a just really quick vote if we could all just vote for Fellowship right now, and instead of wasting someone's nomination
Yeah.
on it. But
You know
I
what?
don't know.
I
why
really,
don't
that's
we
why
do
I
that?
wanted to do the
I like
Lord of
that.
the Rings.
Yeah,
like-
because originally he wanted to do the trilogy, and you said to pick one. Where I'm like, you know what? If we want to just do Fellowship, if that's the one we all feel stronger, it represents.
okay with
one
that, Malcolm?
movie as far
I
as
think
I'm
that would be the
concerned.
best way to do this. But I don't know. I'll say no to Return of the King, but my vote would be yes for Fellowship, if that helps. I don't know.
If someone wants to bring up Fellowship, they can later.
Okay.
Ooh.
All right.
No, the only reason I said pick one because it opens a can of worms to another few movies that could as well
That's true.
that may or may not come up.
It will.
So that's why I said pick one. That's the only reason I said.
If we get to spot 12 and we haven't done it yet, then we might all just agree.
probably
to
Anyway, Jonathan, what are you gonna bring up next?
Okay. I'm gonna probably let Mr. Peter Jackson. Save that one for later. Okay, so so I'm not gonna pick that one. Let me bring it up, but I am gonna choose. Hmm. You know, I'm gonna go with this one. Okay, so I am going to nominate X2. X2 X-Men United. You know the sequence. It's Nightcrawler attacking people in the White House with his, his mutant powers, and the way they filmed that sequence, it's amazing. And it really does set that standard. Like, it tells you to level up in terms of the story, in terms of the character development, and also the series as well. Yeah, I think X2 is easily the best of the original trilogy, but because the stakes are higher and it's actually more involving. So yeah, X2 X-Men United, I think it still remains one of the best opening sequences in a superhero movie. So yeah, X2.
And yeah, I would actually take it one step further and say it's the one of the best character introductions as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
And I think X2 is great. And the opening sequence does what it needs to do, introduce this new character that um unless you're familiar from the cartoons or comics and that, like, who you may not really know much about. So it's definitely a good way to show off his powers and all that. So it's a yes for me. Brian, what do you say about X2?
It's a yes for me. I echo what Jonathan Malcolm said. Great character introduction, great intro for the movie, great cinematography for the scene as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's a yes for me.
Yeah.
Dylan, what do you say about X2?
It's funny because in the last conversation, it was like I picked either this or that, and I picked Fellowship instead of Return of the King. Here is where I actually wrote both X-Men and X2. Since it's already made it on, I will take the opportunity to say no for X2 only to champion X-Men because it's probably not going to come up. So I just want to give it its due too. That Holocaust opening with Magneto is just a really very fascinating opening as well that you wouldn't expect for a superhero film. So I just wanted to give it its flowers because I slightly prefer that one in terms of like the emotional heft it brings to the story. I prefer that over X2, which is more of just like the fun action. You know, it is a leveling up in filmmaking, which I really appreciate, but I think the X-Men opening has a little bit more of that emotional connection. But I still think it's a great pick to make the list, so I'm happy it made it on, even though I would have said no to X2 in order to say yes to X-Men. But it made it on anyway, so I'm not complaining. It's a great sequence, great character introduction, as Malcolm said. So yeah, great pick, Jonathan. Great.
Alejandro, do you want to bring up X2? What do you say about X2?
I'm on
What?
the exact same page as Dylan, man. I also wrote X-Men, not X2, man. I agree. Like that opening sequence goes so much harder than the fun little circus thing we get going on in X2. So even though I do think X2 is the better movie overall, X-Men has a better opening sequence.
But that X2 X-Men United is going to make the list. That is moves to me. Question is, do I bring up the obvious one or a personal favorite? I'll leave that for now. I'm going to bring up a personal favorite. And I'm going to bring up Boulder's Nation, and this is one that I did actually run by Austin beforehand to see sort of he would end the thing, but and he said like the whole lead up like to when he breaks out of the premonition, like he said that would all count as an opening scene to him, and so and it's like, and I think Folders Nation, I think it's a great opening scene. Like it shows like all the hints to what you can expect like throughout the rest of the movie, all the other deaths and all that, and I think it does what it needs to, sets up the characters, and all that. And it's also really kick-ass, like mass death sequence as well. But yeah, so Final Destination is going to be my nomination. Brian, what do you say about Final Destination?
Yeah, I'm not a big horror person in the community, as people know. So I haven't seen Final Destination, so I'll abstain.
Dylan, what do you say about Final Destination?
Yeah, I actually watched this for the first time last Halloween as like part of my like movie marathon. I'm just reading my review back because I honestly I should be able to recall the opening, but I just would need to watch it again to like say if it's one of my favorites. So it wasn't on my list, so I will say no. Is that the one with the plane?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. So I do know what it is. But yeah, it's great. It's just I just have so many other ones on my list, so I'll say no. But it is a good pick to bring up, especially for horror, because I think horror in the 2000s, for on my list at least, is a little lacking. So it's cool you brought it up, but I am gonna say no.
Alejandro, what do you say about Final Destination?
Final Destination did make my list, man. That is one of the coolest opening sequences any horror movie ever made. Freaking horror movies are my bag. That's why, even though they haven't come up yet, I like half of my list is horror movies, man. Like I came up with quite a few horror movies. And Final Destination is one of them, so I'm going yes.
Jonathan, it falls on you. What do you say about Final Destination?
Okay, I gotta look. I had to look it up very quickly. The kick-ass moment that you were talking about, I think that occurs way late in an opening sequence. I don't count it as part of the opening sequence in my personal opinion, because I think it's really just him getting up and then just going in, and then we just move on to the next scene, the event itself, where he's having the premonition, and then we get to the plane event. So I just don't count that moment as part of the opening sequence. I think it's just another cool scene. And that's from a person that I actually do like the Final Destination series, -4, by the way. I don't like the fourth one, but yeah, I have a blast with that movie, but I think it's a little too late into the film to count it as an opening sequence. I think it's just another scene, so I'm gonna say no.
With that, Final Destination isn't going to make the list. Brian, we go to you for your next nomination.
Yeah, let's see what should I go with. I'll go with the film for in honor of JPO. Also, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. The opening is great. You see how Joel and Clementine meet, and then if you realize later on they broken up. See how the relationship happened at the beginning. It's a great opening scene. So I'll do it for JPO. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Dylan, what do you say about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
It's very interesting. This is my number 2 favorite film of all time. So it's like one of those things where like when bringing up, like, I'm always gonna say yes to everything Eternal Sunshine, so it's a yes. But like it's one of those things where I think about the movie just as an entirety, that I don't even separate it as like opening, closing in my brain. I'm just like, this is just one big anomaly to me of like, this is Eternal Sunshine. Not like, this is the opening of Eternal Sunshine. Like I know what the opening is, but it's just kind of like, because so much of it is also repeated throughout the movie. There's so much like memory at play. It wasn't initially on my list. I did put it on at the very end because I was like, oh yeah, Eternal Sunshine has a great opening, because I also looked at a few lists and it was on a bunch of lists. But I just love that movie so much that it's kind of one of those unconditional, like if it's brought up, I'm always going to say yes to getting on a list, even though I don't even know if it's one of the 12 best openings for me personally in terms of just isolated openings. But I'm going to say yes because it's Eternal Sunshine, and I always champion it. So you got me, Brian.
You're welcome.
Alejandro, what do you say about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
I also love this movie, man. It's such a great story. I don't remember the opening even a little bit. Like I guess in the same way that Dylan was saying, I kind of see the movie as a whole thing, one cohesive story, not so much an opening. I can't remember the opening at all. I remember it being like a slow burn, the way Brian was talking about.
Yes, it is.
By the time meeting and like talking, and that's kind of misleading to where this story goes. So I'm actually kind of leaning towards no for this one, even though I do love this movie. It's such a good movie.
Jonathan, what do you say about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
That's an interesting opening. So yeah, it's basically him talking to Kate Winslet's character Clementine, and then we switch to reality, and then he's kind of crying, he's in pain, he's in depression, and then he drives, and the opening credits start, and then we begin the journey. It sets the tone really well, though. In terms of storytelling, in terms of the journey we take with Joel, and that atmospheric, storytelling that is presented by Michelle Gondry and Kaufman as well. Wow, this flew under my radar. This opening. Yeah, I'm gonna go yes because it sets the tone really, really well. Yeah, I now it just came to me and then just I think that is a beautiful opening and just it's kind of hurts you in the feels for sure, especially when it comes to real life here. So yeah, I'm gonna go yes, and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That's a good pick. Yeah.
Thanks.
I like Eternal Sunshine. Like, I'm not as high on the movie as other people are, but I do still think it's a good movie. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones like I struggle to remember the opening itself. Like, I quickly like realigned myself with it. Like, it's a good opening. I probably would have leaned slightly to no, but Eternal Sunshine is going to make the list. So yeah. Dylan, we go to you for your next nomination.
Cool. Yeah, we're in the midway point. We've passed the midway point of the list. We're at 7 now, so I'm gonna go for something a little bit more deep cut. Two things. When I said I didn't have a lot of horror on my list, it's not because I think the horror is bad in that year. It's just in that decade. It's just I wasn't really watching horror until I was older, and I didn't go back a lot. But I'm gonna pick one that is a horrific opening scene. Even if it's not a horror movie, it's more of like a psychological thriller. And it kind of fits the banner of movie's not that great, but the opening is so great. And I'm gonna go with Enduring Love from 2004, the Roger Michelle film. I love this opening because first off, it's iconic because the poster and the actual letterbox synopsis of the film is the synopsis of the opening scene. Like, it just talks about they're at a picnic and then this happens. So basically, the opening sequence, for anyone who doesn't know, is these two people, Daniel Craig and Samantha Morton, are on a picnic, and basically this hot air balloon kind of just rushes through this like field, and apparently the pilot of the hot air balloon accidentally got his foot tied in the rope and isn't able to get on the balloon. The balloon's taking off, and there's a kid in the passenger basket who will not jump out. And it's this really tense sequence of like this guy trying to tell the kid, you got to get out of the basket, and the basket starts flying, and all these different strangers in the park are trying to like grab on the hot air balloon and make sure it doesn't fly away. And eventually, you know, it ends up with something very, very tragic. And it's one of those things that I think when people talk about Up, this is what they mean, where it's such a powerful opening sequence that the rest of the film is like kind of just trying to live up to that, and it never does. But I think Up does live up to the opening. At least it keeps it present throughout, whereas here it really is about the opening, so much so to where like if you read reviews for it, it's always like that first 10 minutes, you know, and it's only that first 10 minutes. But it's one of the most horrific sequences I've ever seen. Just that hot air balloon with the kid in the basket, and then when you see it like actually ignite and catch fire and start to rise, and all these strangers dangling off the side of the hot air balloon trying to pull it down, and then ultimately when they let go because they just can't help anymore, and then the guy's just up there on a string, and you're like, well, he's either dying or flying up to the stratosphere. It's really one of those haunting opening scenes that I think the reason the film isn't talked about much is because it's not a great film, but that opening sequence is so good. So Enduring Love is going to be my pick.
Alejandro, what do you say about Enduring Love?
Dylan, you got to start picking movies I've seen, man. I'm starting to feel bad saying no
I'm so
all the
sorry.
time.
Same here.
I'll pick a very mainstream one next time.
I can't
promise.
say yes because I haven't seen the movie, so no.
If anything, this is a good way to recommend it, you know, because now
Fair.
I hope I enticed y'all.
But I don't know if Jonathan's a.
He's
doing
I only, I think. Maybe
so
go
it's
back
probably
to him afterwards, maybe.
Maybe he watched the scene and he's so enraptured by it.
But anyway, so we'll go back to him when he gets back in here. But yeah, I watched this. I watched. I just quickly watched this. I never even heard of this movie, to be honest.
Same here.
And it's definitely an intriguing opening and kind of makes you want to watch the movie. So yeah,
right. Sadly, the movie's not great, but I'm
actually gonna lean towards yes. But Jonathan, what do you say about Enduring Love?
I haven't seen it, so I have to abstain.
And Brian, what do you say about Enduring Love?
Yeah, I agree with Malcolm. I watched a minute scene while Dylan's pitching it. It looks interesting. You know what? For Dylan, I'll give it blood, yes.
Oh my god, guys.
Wait, what the? Wait.
Can I say something though? Like it is. Brian and Malcolm, you haven't actually seen the movie. Like, I feel like this is more of a personal thing. I don't want to waste a spot if you guys haven't seen it. I don't want. I mean, if you guys want to,
how this works.
Well, no, this is about movie openings. I watched the opening.
Yeah,
I've
scene,
actually
and
never
the
heard of
opening
this
scene-
movie.
Me either.
Yeah, I think the opening scene is great. So.
this is the one
What
that'll
is-
get the hate from the comments. This is one where
Actually,
you guys
because I don't think
keep
Eddie was gonna get the hate. I don't know what this movie's about. I had to leave because I had to attend to something. But
Yeah. But that Enduring
So
Love
funny.
is going to make
I
the
didn't think there
list.
was a
Don't worry,
shot in hell.
it won't be
That's
top
crazy.
10 though. It'll be like number 12.
That's fine.
Sure.
no,
I'd be
there's
shocked
another
if they
one
don't.
that is number 12. But
Alejandro, what do you
Alright.
what is the next movie you're going to bring up?
Okay, for my next one, I'm stuck between two.
oh boy,
I'll go with the crazy one. Why not? I'm going to go with a remake of a horror movie that I really, really like. That I think
oh,
has probably the best opening sequence
It's
in
a
any
Halloween.
horror movie
oh, no.
ever made.
I know what
It
you're gonna pick.
starts with the following film, which you are about to see.
I know what it is.
An account of a tragedy that befell a group of 5 teens. You know, a road trip in Texas, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, I thought it was another
It's
one.
such a good. It's
Oh.
such a good opening sequence. I'm telling you. Like on top of having the opening narration, which is a homage to the original movie, you've got that great scene of the dudes walking down into the basement with the black and white 8mm camera, taking photos and seeing the claw marks on the walls with the nails. Oh man! But right before the movie starts and those camera flashes. Sorry to disappoint Jonathan over there. But I love the opening to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I think it's probably the best remake. It might be actually the best film in that franchise, the Michael Bay one.
Is this specifically the 2003 one? I don't know if there's
Yeah,
more
that
than
one.
review.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mike.
How's that one?
Jonathan, what do you say about the 2003 version of Texas?
I thought he was gonna bring up another one. I was like, oh, I may say
It's
yes
probably
to,
on here.
but no, that one. I was like, oh, that one. I don't remember the opening. No, seriously, I don't remember that one. And but now you describing it, I was like, well, okay, it's fine. It's a fine opening. I think it's a fine opening to an okay movie. I like the original a lot, but I'm not going to see that movie again. But
It's hard to watch.
it is hard to watch. But I think it's just a fine opening. And I'll be honest, I'm looking at this list right now, and there's some big titles missing. So I'm going to say no.
It's one of those ones I haven't seen 2003 version of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But it's one of those ones like I quickly watched a bit of the opening. I was like, it's fine. Like I don't know if I would say top 12. So it's no for me. Brian, what do you say about Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Yeah, the remake I thought John was thinking of was Rob Zombie's Halloween. Made the face.
I would never recommend that for anything ever.
Anyways, I'll give it a no since only 4
Isn't it
spots.
2010 anyway? Or no, it's 2009.
2007 one, I think.
Oh, earlier than that.
Dylan, what do you say about Texas Chainsaw 2003?
Yeah, as I just said earlier, like I haven't dabbled in a lot of horror of the 2000s because it's like I was a very young child, and then now that I'm going back to watch all the classics of horror, I'm going back more like to like the 70s, 80s, or like the most recent decade. It's a lot of blind spots in the 2000s, but that's what I'm grateful for. I'm recommending niche films. Alejandro is now recommending good horror films. This is a fun little back and forth. I gotta say no though because I've never seen it and I didn't have time to look it up. So
That's fine. It's honestly the best one.
But Jonathan, what is the next movie you're gonna bring up?
Okay. All right. I'm going to bring up a bigger one. Okay, I got to bring up a good title here. And no disrespect, though. I'm between 3 titles. And, okay, we brought up a couple of sci-fi films already. So, you know what? Boy, this is really action heavy this decade. And sci-fi heavy. Okay. I'm gonna nominate a movie that I think that really exceeded our expectations when it comes to this franchise. And when this opening came out, and it's not that scene at following, it's the scene that reintroduced us to this character in a very brutal way in the black and white fashion. And I'm gonna nominate Casino Royale. Oh yes.
I agree.
Yeah, Casino Royale is awesome. That opening is awesome. It's basically reintroduced us to this kind of gritty James Bond character that we didn't really see in the past. Like Brosnan is basically like the suave type, and Timothy Dalton, I think it's kind of close to that, but unfortunately, he got 2 movies, and I think the Living Daylights is fine, but License to Kill, I think that was a really good movie, underrated one, but unfortunately, that I don't know what happened with that contract. But I think Casino Royale is an awesome action sequence that is brutal, but also it lets us know what kind of James Bond movie we're into. That shares the title with the unfortunate 60s movie. But so I'm going to nominate Casino Royale.
Hey, the '60s movies was a lot of fun. But anyway, with, Casino Royale, I think this the opening was great. Like it showed a grittier side of Bond. And yeah, it was easily in my like really high on my personal list. So it's a yes. Brian, what do you say about Casino Royale?
Yeah, I have to agree. Yes, on this one. When it first began, like people thought the color missing, like it's all black and white, and then we get to the color, and then we get classic James Bond shooting into the eye, which is great. So it's a yes.
And Dylan, what do you say about Casino Royale?
I'm about to lose my film buff card. I've actually never seen Casino Royale. It's one of those things where I want to like go back and watch all the James Bond movies, and it just I haven't gotten there yet because there's a lot of them. And I like saw Skyfall when it came out and was like I need to like watch all these, and then I'm still working my way through 10 years later.
Yeah, that's why I said it's a reintroduction. Yeah,
yeah. But I do want to go back and watch this. I haven't seen it, so I will abstain. But it sounds great.
Alejandro, what do you say about Casino Royale?
Casino Royale might be my favorite James Bond movie, man. It's so good. I love the movie start to finish, and yeah, that opening sequence talking about what it takes to become a 00, man. That's badass. So yeah, I would have said yes to Casino Royale.
Summer Maria's happy right now.
Casino Royale does make the list. Back to me.
Although I do want to give Jonathan shit really quickly. Talking about this is a really action heavy list. Let me nominate an action movie.
No, I'm talking about the decade because I also have a lot of action movies that I listed. That's also, why I brought that up.
It's a good deck for animation as well too. So,
but yeah, it's back to me, and you know what? Let's bring up another action movie with a very slow opening. I'm bringing up Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring.
You want to make this quick?
Fellowship comes in with a chair. Boom.
Look, while it's not the most spectacular of openings, like it gives the like information it needs to, and it's all there, and I think it's great. Brian, what do you say about Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring?
I mean, is anyone else going to know for it? It's a yes for me.
Dylan?
Yeah, it's a yes for me. I talked about it.
Alejandro?
No, for me, I already talked about why.
Ooh, why am I going to go with this?
Jonathan, what do you say?
Well, yes.
It's the quickest random round ever.
Probably.
Yeah, finally. Jesus.
With that, surprisingly, Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring makes the list. It's also why I deliberately rated until we had less spots on there to bring it up to. So I wanted everyone to think I wasn't
going to... 2 spots left, is that correct?
Got 2 spots left?
Yeah.
Damn, all right. It's about to get really heavy.
Yeah.
And we're on to Brian.
This is tough, actually. I have two I want to talk about. I think what will be both. I'm not sure. I'll do for Push Drunk Love, actually. The opening scene,
Ooh.
Adam Sandler's character, Barry Egan, talking to Hotline for his figure farm miles, slow pacing. Then you see him pick up the harmonium, I believe it is. You get just to Louis Guzman's character. And it's a great opening scene. So I'll shoot some love for Sandman for Punch Drunk Love.
Dylan, what do you say about Punch Drunk Love?
It's a great film, a great, performance. Adam Sandler. It's just I haven't seen it in so long that like the opening doesn't like stick in my head. Like I couldn't. The thing with this list is like I really think it represents like a lot of openings that like if you say the name of the movie you can envision that opening. Whereas I don't know if I could. If you just say Punch Drunk Love, there's certain scenes I think about. I don't know if I think about the opening. It's just been so long, so I gotta say no. I love that movie though, so I'm glad you brought it up. But I'm gonna say no.
Alejandro, what do you say?
Never seen the movie. Have to say no.
Jonathan, what do you say about Punch Drunk Love?
It's a very close honorable mention. It is very close. Because I remember that shot, that opening scene. It basically visually tells you who he is. I mean, who he is in the movie. He's isolated from the world. He's cornered by society, and PTA does a really good job of introducing us visually who he is and what the story's going to set out to. However, as in terms of the tone of the film, the introduction, I don't think it's like one of the most memorable ones of PTA's filmography. It's very close. Probably one of the slightest no's I've ever done because, I know it hurts me to paint. It hurts me to say it because it's a really good opening. So I'm gonna go slight no. Sorry.
Yeah, this is one that I'd like the opening. I just don't think it's that spectacular. And I think it's great. Like Punch Drunk Love is probably high in top 10 of my Adam Sandler movies, but in terms of openings, I'm gonna have to say no to it. So if that Punch Drunk Love isn't going to make the list, Dylan, we go to you for your next nomination.
This is tough because like when there's only a few picks left, I usually go more niche, but I feel bad for the last one. So I will go a little bit more mainstream because I really do think this is a really fun opening, and it tells you everything you need to know about the characters and their situation and the tone of the movie. I debated between the first and second one, but I'm gonna go with the second one just because I think it's got an I shouldn't even say more iconic song, but because it's an original song, I'm gonna go with it. We said there's a lot of great animated movies in the 2000s. I'm going with Shrek 2.
Yes.
And here's why. The first Shrek opening, someone else still might bring it up because it's a great opening. Hey, now you're an all-star. But Accidentally in Love, great song. And it's not just the song, but I'm assuming we can take the storybook opening with like Prince Charming riding up to the castle, opening up Fiona's room. You know where this is going to go in every other fairy tale, but nope, the big bad wolf is sitting in the bed and he's like, what? And Prince Charming's like, where is my girl? And she's an ogre and she's on a beach and they're on the honeymoon and the Accidentally in Love sequence happens. It's one of the great original songs. It's very well animated. There's a great From Here to Eternity homage with the mermaid. You never thought you'd ever see that in a DreamWorks film. And again, it sets the tone. It shows you that this is a very big, kind of almost more cynical take on fairy tales, but by being that, it's its own unique thing, which is what it's celebrating as well. It sets up Prince Charming as a great villain because you immediately get this just like pompous asshole, with his long wavy hair, and he's perfectly voiced by Rupert Everett. And you get the comedy with the big bad wolf, and you get the comedy of them sharing a hot tub and farting in it and bubbles. And listen, it's not highbrow cinema, but like it's a great opening, and it tells you everything you need to know about the characters. It reminds you how much their love is real as well. The fact that she decided to stay as an ogre for him, and for herself. It's not just for the man; it's for herself, for her own, powerful womanhood. But it's great opening, great movie. I'm taking the scene into the song though. I hope I'm allowed. If we're just talking about the scene, maybe not. But that song is just the cherry on top. The strawberry ice cream, never ever ever on this love. That's my favorite.
Alejandro, what do you say about the opening to Shrek 2?
I said if I had anything to say about it, there were going to be more than one animated movie on this list, and Shrek 2 was the one that was going to be on this list, man. Because while I do love the opening to Shrek, giving us entire backstory of Fiona with Smash Mouth's All Star, man, Counting Crows really kills it with Accidentally in Love. Plus, it's a lot nicer to have both of them together doing the opening sequence the same way that Shrek was doing at the beginning of the first movie, but now they're together. The movie really leans into their relationship, and I love that movie. So yeah, Shrek 2, absolutely, 2 thumbs up.
Jonathan, what do you say about Shrek 2?
I think both Shrek 1 and Shrek 2 are equally great openings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've seen that movie, I think, more times than I could imagine during that era. During that time, I saw it in the movie theaters, and I saw that movie on a plane like a couple of times, and then on cable TV. Oh, man. Yeah, I remember very well. The Prince Charming sequence is great. And then we transition into the lovely Accidentally in Love sequence with their honeymoon. And yeah, it's very sweet. And I don't think we have like a sweet opening on the
True.
list. Well,
These are all pretty
up,
miserable.
Up. Never mind.
Up is not a sweet opening.
It is
Well,
sweet, and then it becomes.
No, let's just say a sweet opening in a different way. Let's just
Okay.
keep it that
All
way.
right. Sure.
But
What you
no,
saying,
sweet-
Casino? What you saying, Casino Royale's not a sweet opening?
No, not really, not really.
Yeah, so uplifting.
Unless you describe sweet like, oh, that's sweet, yeah, badass sweet. No, but Up is like more sweet, like in a realistic way. This one is sweet in a fantastical way, like in a fairy tale fashion that you want them to keep going with their love. I mean, you love them, you like them together, and you're happy. It's positive opening, and so yeah, Shrek 2 is great, and yeah, and then we get to Donkey. So Shrek 2.
Yeah. This is honestly, this is one I didn't think of. I mean, I do love the Shrek movies. I think they're great. I actually would have leaned slightly to no, just because, like, it's not overly like it. It's one of those ones like if I didn't even remember it to consider it for this list, like it's not that memorable to me. But I mean it's fine. Like but Brian, what would you have said about Shrek 2?
I mean, the second film featuring Lord of the Rings, actually. You get a sequence with the ring given to Shrek with
Yeah.
the running
that's
ring.
right.
Yeah.
Or goes flying in the air and then it falls on the field.
Yeah, that's right.
That's funny, yeah.
But Shrek 2 is going to make the list. Alejandro, go
Oh no,
back to you for your next nomination.
we've only got one spot left. What are we gonna do? I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go with a franchise movie that is probably the reason I had to pick just one of the Lord of the Rings movies. I'm going with the Sorcerer's Stone, the Philosopher's Stone, whichever you prefer in whatever part of the country you're in. Because, man, that movie opens so strong. It opens with magic. That you come to this movie to see magic, and the opening scene gives you that in spades. Giant dude riding a flying motorcycle. Old dude sucking lights out of lampposts like it was nothing. The woman turns it from a cat into a person. It's insane, and it sets up such intrigue, and of course the score by John Williams and etc. Man, that opening sequence gets you locked in gets me locked in, I should say, every single time I watch the movie. So yeah, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Those movies are separated by years. Lord of the Rings is one continuous story. I'm just saying.
Jonathan, what do you say about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone?
Why did you have to do that to me? You hit me in the childhood. Feels damn. Ah.
It's a good movie. I'm sorry, I had to.
No, the opening's so good too. Ah.
It's so good.
Because there's like one very big one that is like all timer. There's one very big one. Damn. Yeah, it's very great. I read the books beforehand, and I already got introduced to the world before I saw the movie. So, in the trailer, when I saw it in the movie theater, I was like, okay, this looks great. I'll go watch it. And then I watched it, and I was like, okay, the opening, yeah, it's really, really good. Yeah, all the three characters, Dumbledore, McGonagall, and Hagrid, they get together, drop off baby Harry, onto the doorstep, and then he endures one of the most insufferable childhood experiences ever in film. And yeah, God, and it's high up on honorable mentions. I want to see where this goes. I'm not going to be too upset about it. I'll probably be partially upset, but I want to go slightly no. But because there's one big one, there's one very big one that should be on this list if we're talking 2000s, and I'll be shocked if this thing's make it.
Yeah, no, yeah. So I'm like, this is a tricky one for me because I am a big Harry Potter fan. Like, and I love all the movies. But in terms of opening, like I do like the Philosopher's Stone opening previously, but there's a different Harry Potter movie that I think has a better opening scene. So I'm going to go no.
I hope it's not the
Brian,
Order
what
of
do
the
you say?
Phoenix.
Yeah, out of all the Harry Potter openings that lost me to prep for this, Sorcerer's Stone is the better one. Better one because you get used to the characters you're going to see later on. It's all like the introduction to Hagrid, introduction to McGonagall, introduction to Dumbledore, and even as the opening scene with the da 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 da. So I'll give it a yes.
Dylan, what do you say about Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone?
This is tough because it's all on me. I think the problem with Harry Potter is like each of them are so great individually and they all have great openings. But a lot of that is also because it's conceived from the book. So it's like how much of it is the filmmaking. But the fact that they recreated it is impressive in and of itself.
Right.
But I
It's
think
the best adaptation of
yeah,
those
it's a
books.
great adaptation. The only thing is also we have Fellowship, which I think visualizes something that is hard to visualize and they pull it off. Whereas here it's like, you know, they give you exactly what you need to visualize it in a way. They tell you where everyone's standing and they tell you what the mood is. So like a lot of the work was done for them in the book, but like that shouldn't hold it back from making the list. But I think because it's the last slot and you know, Jonathan says there's an obvious one. I think there's a bunch that could still be brought up that are worthy of at least being talked about. So just to keep the conversation going a little, and because I don't think it's my favorite of the Harry Potters openings, I will say slight no, but the score makes it hard to say no to.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say a slight no only because I think there's probably something that we. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough, but I'm gonna say no.
I think Chamber of Secrets is the better movie, but Philosopher's Stone has the best opening for sure.
I disagree. I disagree with that on Chamber of Secrets being the
I
better
don't know.
movie.
I like
I like
the
that movie.
Aunt Marge Prisoner of Azkaban sequence too.
I don't
I
think it's an
agree.
opening sequence.
It's not an opening sequence.
Well, oh, true.
The opening
Yeah,
sequence
it's
is
after the
Harry with the
title.
map, like
Oh,
for
that's
magic.
right. Okay, yeah.
Or
Either way, I
who
still
knows?
I still probably
But
would say no.
anyway,
Anyway,
Jonathan,
sorry.
we go back to you if you think so.
Okay. There's one great sequence, opening sequence, that reintroduced me to this franchise again after a lengthy absence. And it reintroduced not just me, but also most of the world to this opening sequence that garnered millions of dollars and a lot of respect again. I'm talking about Star Trek. Star Trek, the opening. J.J. Abrams opens it, you know, in his own style of, you know, introducing us to the ship, and then basically setting up this mission with the, I believe they're they're kind of, I forgot the alien race. Are they the Romulans again, or?
I believe so.
Okay, let's say Romulans, but Eric Bana's character and his whole alien race, the team on the ship, and then his captain gets killed, and then they go into an unfair battle. Say what you will there, but then it also introduced us to George Kirk and his wife as she goes into labor, and she and a lot of people are getting evacuated while this battle is occurring. And they put George Kirk under command, and he basically had limited time to save a lot of people from getting killed. during this attack, and he sacrifices himself. And of course, during this attack, James T. Kirk is born. The legendary James T. Kirk is born, and the way they structured that opening sequence is wonderful. And I think it has both action and magic with another Giacchino score. As Jim is getting born. So Star Trek, yeah, I think this is one of the best openings of the decade for sure. So Star Trek.
Yeah, I like Star Trek 2009. I think the opening's good, but I'm actually going to lean a slight no to this. I think it's fine, but I think I do think there's other things on my list I think is better, so it's a no for me. Brian, what do you say about Star Trek 09?
It's on my list. It's a yes for me, and also first movie of Chris Hemsworth. Don't forget that.
Yes.
So, good cheers back there, and I'll give it a yes.
Yeah, it introduces Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah. Dylan, what do you say about Star Trek 2009?
Yeah, this is definitely like on my list. It's just like there's also other things on my list, so now I just got to think about like, is this deserving of that final spot? It's funny because I think I would have put this on there over like some of the other ones we put on, but it's it's tough for now with the last slot. It's great. I think the Chris Hemsworth thing is really what sells me, is because it's like this guy, this actor who's just hired for this role. They didn't need a star in the role, and then when you watch it now, it's like, oh, it's Chris Hemsworth. But back then, it was just some guy, and he has so much charisma and so much heart and so much stoicism that it's so great to see.
Are we talking about Chris Pine?
No, Chris Hemsworth. He plays Chris Pine's father. So he's in the very opening scene. It's his first film role.
Right.
And then it cuts to the Chris Pine stuff on the motorcycle and stuff. I think the thing is like, yeah, that movie's really great, but I don't revisit it a lot to where it's not always on the forefront of my brain. But it is a really good opening scene. It's tough. I'm just like looking at the list, and you know what? I'm gonna. This is tough. This is the hardest part. Is always when there's like one slot left, and it's if you say yes, it's on. So I'm gonna let Alejandro do the tough job. I'm gonna say a slight no, only because, again, I just have other heavy hitters as well, and I think this is just it's tough to get one last thing on there, but it's good though. It's good.
Alejandro, what do you say about Star Trek 2009?
Star Trek 2009 might be my favorite Star Trek movie. That said, I'm not the biggest Star Trek fan. I'm actually going to go with a yes for me. Star Trek 2009 is probably the best Star Trek movie made, period. I don't care what anybody else says. I like I say, I'm not that big a Star Trek fan, so Star Trek 2009 to make the list is actually a pretty okay concept for me. I like that movie a lot.
All right, but that Star Trek 2009 is going to make the list.
Also, I don't have anything else.
You know what? Before we go to honorable mentions, yeah, that was like one of my 4 locks. By the way, it was that one, Inglourious, Dark Knight, and Up. So that's.
I only hesitated because it was the last spot open. If this had been brought up earlier, I would have been like,
I told you Scooby Doo would haunt you back.
I didn't say yes to Scooby Doo. Me and you were the nose, Jonathan.
Oh, that's
Scooby
right.
Doo is better than Star Trek. I'll fight you on that.
It's really.
What are your honorable mentions, Malcolm?
I was getting to that. So my honorable mention that I had is I think the opening scene to Kill Bill Volume 1 is great. Like it
that was on my list. Yeah.
And it was one of those, because I even think the opening to Volume 2 is just as great as well.
That one too.
I had There Will Be Blood on my list. I think that's great.
Me too.
Pirates of the Caribbean: Curse of the Black Pearl, I think is great. Like it opens you up to the world and all that. And like the Harry Potter movie, I would have brought up was Goblet of Fire. I think the opening to Goblet of Fire sets up everything you need to know about Goblet of Fire going forward. It's a lot of fun, and I actually really like and a movie that I actually watched for the first time for a different reason. 25th Hour. I think the opening to that is pretty fun. Just this whole drug dealer goes like saving this dog and all that. But yeah. But Brian, what are some honorable mentions that you had?
Yeah, I have Finding Nemo on my list. Pirates of the Caribbean and World's End, my favorite opening of it. Jackass the movie. I love the whole shopping cart entrance.
Mm.
Watchmen, Slumdog Millionaire, Lord of War, Ratatouille, The Incredibles, Road to El Dorado, Catching the Can, Spider-Man 2, and Street Todd.
I like the Road to El Dorado one. That's a good one.
Yep.
Dylan, what are some honorable mentions that you had?
Yeah, one that I saw on so many top 10 lists that I didn't get the chance to watch the full movie of, but it was one of those experiments of like, if I watch the opening sequence, will I be tempted to watch the rest of the movie? Was Narc. It's on every top 10 list I saw, so I really want to watch it because it sounds great and the first sequence is great. That chase. There Will Be Blood, a great opening sequence for that character. No Country for Old Men, I'm surprised was not on our list or not brought up. A Serious Man, just such a weird opening to a movie that is so interesting and how it looks at the collective, experience of that religion. Lord of War was on my list. The bullet sequence is really cool. The one I would have brought up next, it's probably gonna get noted because, but it would have been the 2000 Hungarian film by Bellatar, Workmeister Harmonies. It's one of the best opening sequences ever. It could be its own short film. Bellatar's the guy who did like the 7-hour Satan Tango movie. But yeah, like that opening, it's like a guy walks into a bar and gets all these drunk people to like reenact the solar, like a solar eclipse, using them as like the sun and earth and moon, and like watching all these drunk guys spin around and stuff. It's just one of those great like opening sequences you could just take out and just like isolate as its own film, and it's great. But there's just such a great poetry to it. I love his films. Mission Impossible 3 is such a great opening and how it just thrusts you in the action. Really great. As I said, X-Men, Old Boy, again, just the intrigue of like what the hell is going on. The Prestige basically tells you the whole movie in the first scene. You don't even realize it. That's the magic trick. That probably would have been also on my list. The Incredibles, as Brian mentioned, Austin Powers was on my list. And an honorable mention. Sexy Beast, what a fun character intro. And Atonement, kind of a similar thing to The Hours. I was between The Hours and Atonement, but like setting up the entire conceit of the film being that we're looking at it from a child's eyes and we have to be in tune with the unreliable narrator, and just how that first opening sequence tells us without actually telling us, just based on the visual cues, is really fascinating. So those are my honorable mentions.
Alejandro, what are some honorable mentions that you had?
The Road to El Dorado was on my list as well as Shaun of the Dead, and the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, which got knocked out because Scooby-Doo's intro.
Oh yeah, I like that opening.
And then I got a bunch of horror movies. I have 28 Days Later. I got Darkness Falls, Underworld, The Ring, Martyrs, and Saw.
I did consider Saw, but Saw is the first Saw especially is a tricky one because the opening sequence is basically the whole movie, so to speak.
It just drops you in, and it's like, good luck.
Oh yeah, no, I get what you mean, but it's really that's one that I considered bringing up. Like it is really hard to establish where the opening scene starts.
Yeah, it's like Birdman in 1917. The opening scene is the closing scene.
But Jonathan, was some honorable mentions that you had?
So the one that Alejandro was mentioning, like I thought what he was going to mention was Dawn of the Dead, the remake. Yeah, because I thought that opening sequence was great. So
it's fine, but it goes into, is it too late in the movie, right?
Okay, I understand, but like it goes, I think it starts at the hospital and then goes on to the streets or something like that, or it goes into the house.
She
goes to the streets.
Yeah, she goes into the house. Yeah.
So and then chaos.
Panic. Right.
So
right.
Yeah.
That's the only reason it didn't make my list.
Okay, I understand. All right, so this is a long one. Gangs of New York, that opening battle sequence in the streets. So yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis, we get his eye, his glass eye right there. Hot Fuzz, yeah, the opening where Simon Pegg introduces himself character. The Departed, Costello, and meets Matt Damon's character. Gladiator, the battle. Minority Report, when they basically introduce us to the world of pre-crime, searching for this guy who's about to murder his wife and the lover. Let's see what else. Lord of War. Bring It On.
That's a great opening. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, if there was like one like big comedy I would have put on, Bring It On would probably be it. I also have Finding Nemo, but Up is fine enough. I think Finding Nemo was a little too sad, but yeah, that's a good one. Michael Clayton.
What?
Mike, come on. I mean, 400 babies lost. I mean, come on. Michael
They didn't
Clayton.
even have babies.
Michael Clayton. Zodiac. The first murder.
Oh yeah. See,
Yeah.
I thought about Zodiac too.
Yeah. The Wrestler, The Hurt Locker, and Ocean's 11.
And a couple of ones that came up in the chat. Stephen mentioned that he thinks like Final Destination 2 is the better opening scene.
I would have brought up the same issues. So
Right.
Well, I figured I wasn't going to keep trying for Final Destination movies anyway. Leo also brought up American Psycho. Then Leo brought up American Psycho. 28 weeks later.
I think
The
28
Ring.
Days Later is a better opening. I think The Ring, yes. 100%. That Ring opening is awesome.
Drag Me Out to Hell.
Oh, I don't remember.
Leo also brought up one. Yeah. Leo also brought up one that I'm really mad that I forgot about because I definitely would have nominated and I do think it should be here. He brought up Ghost Ship.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen that movie.
I mean, it's a pretty good opening sequence, if nothing else.
Okay.
But top 12,
and then he also brought up
The Ring is
Tropic
better.
Thunder.
That's a good opening.
Oh my god!
Tropic Thunder, yeah.
The
I
trailers.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I screwed
But
up.
anyway, it's time to
Anyway.
move on to actually ranking this list. Ryan, what do you have at 12?
Since I haven't seen it, Enduring Love.
Dylan, what do you have at 12?
Yeah, it shouldn't be taken too much as a joke because I do love James Gunn and those actors, but it's Scooby Doo.
Alejandro, what do you have at 12?
Because I haven't seen it, Children of Men.
Jonathan, what do you have at 12?
Because I haven't seen it, and I want to be fair, Enduring Love.
And I'm going to make people mad because I really like the other openings on this list, but I think Dark Knight is a very generic opening.
That's a hot take.
You're gonna wait a while.
I know. I've got to write banners as well. So if I don't have to change my board at times, I can do that.
I forgot.
But,
was number 12.
for the record, I like the Dark Knight. So I just think the opening itself is very generic. So.
Listen, I'm happy Enduring Love even made it on the list. You know, Chad told me beforehand, he's like, don't bring up anything obscure because don't bring up anything that people won't have seen. And I was like, you know what? All they need to have seen were 3 minutes, or I guess it's more like a 5-minute sequence. But yeah.
Well, also to be fair, I was gone during that, but yeah, I looked up the synopsis. It sounds interesting.
Yeah. But Dylan, what do you have at 11?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Scooby Doo.
Alejandro, what do you have at 11?
Sorry, I have Enduring Love, but that's on the list, so I'm going with Children of Men because I haven't seen it. Sorry.
Jonathan, what do you have for 11?
Ruh-roh. Scooby Doo.
Think of that night, Brian.
Children of Men.
Ooh, Malcolm.
Oh,
Get to break the tie.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. You type it in first, so it's a surprise.
Let's see. It's
Well, that, and I actually had to look at my own list because to see where it landed.
He was writing it down.
And Scooby Doo
Of
was in the
course.
top 10.
Oh my god,
Yeah, dude.
Oh my god.
Hey,
That was my number 5.
I mean,
Yeah, Children
let's
of
put
Men was
this-
like number 2.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I wish I had seen this
Okay.
movie.
It's okay.
But Alejandro, what do you have for
Wow.
10?
Number 10, I have Eternal Sunshine.
Scooby Doo.
There's a bomb.
God, is that you?
Scooby Doo. Okay, Scooby Doo. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no, I'm sticking with Dark Knight, Brian.
I have on the right, so I'll go with Star Trek 9.
Yeah,
and
it's Scooby Doo is going to be in our number 10. Malcolm. It made a good run. It made a good run.
No, I didn't.
People will be happy.
That's better than
I-
that. Anyway,
I mean, let's put it this way: like in the 2010s, one, no one was mad about Batman v Superman making the list, and that's probably like
It's a great
that's one
opening.
of
It
those.
doesn't matter. Yeah.
You're a bit late, Stephen. It didn't make the list.
My apologies.
I nominated it.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Sounds like
Yeah, it's
All right. Oh shoot.
sticking with that night. Brian, what do you have for 9?
Star Trek 09 for number 9.
Dylan.
Only because it's the only one left that I haven't seen. Oh, my phone died. Casino Royale.
Alejandro.
I'm sticking with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind for number 9. Yeah.
And now we'll just go back to Jonathan because it's counting
Jonathan
off the
typed it
way
in the
top.
chat.
It covered
Eternal
five-
Sunshine.
Oof.
Eternal Sunshine is going to be at 9.
Apologies, APO.
Well, I mean,
Top 5.
I love
he's
the
been-
movie.
That's a great movie. Yeah,
It's such a good movie.
I'm glad I made it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those ones like JPO is probably fine it made the list. Like he might even surprise us, and he'd say he probably wouldn't have voted it for this opening.
Yeah, I
sequence.
just typed it in because that was an under the radar pick that made me realize, oh, that was a really good opening. So
Yeah. Brian, what do you have at 8?
Star Trek 09.
Dylan,
Yeah, I'm just sticking with it because I haven't seen it. Casino Royale.
Alejandro,
I also have Star Trek 09.
Jonathan,
Casino Royale.
sticking with the Dark Knight.
Wow.
I know what he's gonna type in. I know because he mentioned that this is one of his bedrooms. The other one. Yeah, figured.
Dylan, what do you have at 7?
I want to switch it up a bit. I know I haven't seen Casino Royale, but I'm like, you know what? I know it's well renowned, so I'll go X2 for my number 7.
Alejandro, what do you have at 7?
7, I have The Dark Knight.
Jonathan,
I'm just gonna say, you know what? I'm changing my board. I'm just gonna say X2. X2.
sticking with the Dark Knight. Brian,
X2.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, okay. That's interesting. Okay.
It's tough though.
Yeah, it gets a little
they're
tough for
tied.
me.
They're tied for
Let's
6 and
get-
7
Yeah.
on my list.
Yeah.
Wait, we voted Children of Men out, right? Okay.
Yeah.
yeah. See, X2 was my personal pick for number 1.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
It's
I'm
a-
sorry.
Good.
it's all right.
I feel bad.
Jonathan, what do you have for 6?
Yeah, it's very sweet, but Shrek 2.
The Dark Knight. Brian,
Casino Royale.
Dylan,
Yeah, Casino Royale, only because I haven't seen it. I'm sorry.
Alejandro,
I have The Dark Knight at number 6.
Ah,
and Jonathan. Oh,
Casino
wait,
Royale.
so, yes, I was about to say.
Okay.
I forgot you had started, but then I remembered it was a tie.
Casino Royale.
Yeah, I heard.
Wow.
So wait, what are the 5 left? We have Dark Knight, Up,
Dark
Inglourious
Knight, Up,
Basterds,
Inglorious Bastards, Lord of the
Fellowship.
Rings, Shrek 2.
and Shrek 2. Okay.
Alejandro, what do you have at 5?
I guess it's going to have to be The Dark Knight.
Jonathan,
Shrek 2.
stick with the Dark Knight. Brian,
Fellowship.
Dylan,
All right, Brian, you're gonna have to break the tie because I have Shrek 2.
Shrek
Ooh.
2 or
Shrek 2 or the Dark
the
Knight?
Dark Knight.
Who would win in a fight?
Ooh.
I think
Psycho's Anarchy or no? You know what? The Dark Knight.
Number 5.
All good. Top 5, all bangers.
Yeah,
I
I personally
and-
like the list.
well, I
They're
Yes!
bangers whether you look at them one way or the other.
I will say, Jay Burns, if you're watching, this proves you wrong. Because Jay, when I put up the poll, Jay did make a comment going, "We all know everyone's going to vote Dark Knight at number 1."
that's not my number one.
It's my number. Yeah, I'm not
It's
gonna.
my
Say
number
Well,
two.
no. Well, that's what me. That's what I was getting at. Though, it's like
Yeah.
he was predicting the panel would put Dark Knight at number 1
Yeah.
because it's Dark Knight.
No, actually, I take it back. Number three. Sorry.
But anyway, I've got
Fellowship.
Dylan.
Yeah, just when I'm looking at them, like, which one do I want to watch the most or least? I'm gonna go Fellowship for number 4.
Alejandro.
I also have Fellowship at 4.
Yeah.
And
Shrek 2.
Cinderella.
it's going to be Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. If it ever was Return of the King, that probably would have been my number 1.
Yeah, Return of the King would have been number 1 1,000 times.
But Dylan, what do you have for 3?
I think this is where the Cinderella story ends for Shrek 2. But it's a great opening. It really is. It's great.
Alejandro, what do you have for 3?
I also have Shrek 2 at number 3.
I've got Brian.
Yeah, looking for like which one we watch the least. Inglourious Bastards.
Wow.
That is going to be Shrek 2 at 3.
What a list.
Okay.
My number 1 and my number 2 are in play. Yes.
We are
This is
announcing our
my
number
like
1,
number
right?
1 and 4. But like again, my top 5 is so close.
But that we're voting for number 1. Not does the
Which
other
you
one
thought
get
I thought
number
we
two
were
The
vote?
number 1.
Yeah,
Number 1 for me.
and it's between Inglourious Bastards and Up.
Both released in the same year. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, wow, that's wild.
Yeah.
Also, summer films too.
Do
Both
we need to
released
write
in
them down?
summertime.
Hold on. I can write it.
But Alejandro, what do you have for number 1?
Number 1. Up.
Jonathan, what do you have for number 1?
Yeah, to be fair, this was like my 1A and my 1B, but I'll be happy if either one won. So, Inglourious Bastards.
I also put Inglourious Bastards spelled correctly and not the Tarantino misspelling. Brian, what do you have as at number
I'll go
1?
for the Racial Line Trade song. Up.
And Dylan, it comes down to you. What do you have for number 1?
I hate this. I hate this.
Yes.
But it is our top 2, so we all really like these 2. Honestly, I would have probably put Children of Men or Dark Knight up higher than my number 4, which is Inglourious Bastards, because my number 1 is Up.
Yes, dude.
It's a good pick.
Yeah.
And I think if people say
Wow.
movie openings, that's kind of across all genres and decades. That's kind of the one a lot of people just go, oh,
Well,
Up.
Well,
sure.
got the
funny
icon
enough, when you think about it, like every time, even someone who doesn't really like Up that much, they always talk about how great the opening is. So,
That was my criteria too, because I'm like Inglourious Bastards. There's so many other great scenes too that you can pull, but like Up, it's like the opening is what people talk about. But it's a
That's
great
true.
list, great list. Great
But-
list.
It sucks you in so fast.
but with that, here are our top 12 opening scenes from the 2000s. At number 12, we've got Enduring Love. At 11, we've got Children of Men. At 10, we've got Scooby Doo. At 9, we've got Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. At 8, we've got Star Trek 2009. At 7, we've got X2, X-Men United. At 6, got Casino Royale. At 5, we've got The Dark Knight. At 4, we've got Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. At 3, we've got Shrek 2. At 2, we've got Inglourious Basterds. And number 1, we've got Up.
Funny enough, number 1 and number 12 both about hot air balloons or balloons. So
But
It's a bookend.
Jonathan, I know you have to head off,
Yeah.
but where can people find you online?
Yeah. You know what? No, even though I was a little jumpy because I had calls and distractions all night, and I normally do not have those. But thank you for having me. This was a great show, unpredictable episode for sure. Did not see Scooby Doo coming. But no. Overall, it's a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun, and hopefully, I can come back on the 1990s because I was doing 1990s, and I'll be honest, I think that's really tough. Now, I should have taken that back in the 2010s. But you can find me on social media platforms on Letterboxd, Instagram, Threads, Twitter. On the variations of Cinecaro, CINECIRO. Yeah, I do reviews, post some stuff, and I'll post my midway report on the best movies of 2024 so far on Tuesday. I just had to catch up on a couple of others, other big ones. I just saw Quiet Place today. This was a lot of fun, and I'll also be hopping off later in July on one of the I think it's one of the tournament ladder episodes of next year, so on Movie Hero Network. So thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. Great to see y'all again once. This was awesome. All
Everyone
right,
go
then.
check out his letterbox. It's a great letterbox, Jonathan.
Oh, thank you very much. I very, very much appreciate it. And also take a look at Dylan's network as well. It's great as well. So, all right, then. Take care, everybody. Have a good night. Have a good morning. Have a good afternoon, wherever you are. Bye-bye.
Quickly, I usually do this before the plugs, before I'll let Jonathan go first because then you want him to go. Next week's episode of Rankum will be...
Just give me all the bacon and eggs you have.
It will be...
You're underarm, Malcolm.
I might as well just use it because it plays into that. But it should be a lot of fun and interesting to see what happens there. But Brian, we can people find you online.
Yeah, you follow me on Reader Network. I'll be on tomorrow with Malcolm for Quiz Cost 128 Part 1. I do cheating most spaces ASAP. I'm actually in the team's finals with Varsity Mesa facing against Ant-Man the Ghost. And winner faces Jonathan and Corey for the winner. Lifestyle Trivia, Multiplex, Dill Pickle Weed Network. I appear sometimes as Pizza Time for Trivia. Shout out to Pizza Planet Best Faction there. And Lifestyle Trivia I appear on.
Dylan, where can people find you online?
Yeah, you can find me at the Dill Pickle Movie Network on YouTube, and we have the Dill Pickle Podcast on anywhere you can find podcasts. It's been really fun just growing that channel with a lot of great guests and great shows over there. We're in the middle of a 2014 retrospective, looking at movies from 10 years ago, hence all my 2014 Blu-rays. It's been a lot of fun just looking at that. And follow me on Letterboxd because I'm posting written reviews for each movie I watch from 10 years ago on there. And also, if you're in the Cleveland area at the Indie Gathering International Film Festival in August, my film Band on the Run will be there. So if you're in the Cleveland area, come say hi. I'm really proud of that work. And yeah, tell them that you know me. Thanks for having me, Malcolm. It's always a blast and always a great time.
Alejandro, we can find you online.
I'm on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at the Alejandro Hernandez, and you can also come out and see me live at the Moonlight Amphitheater at the end of July in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Also, really quickly, this is the first time I'm announcing I am available for bookings at felixandfingers.com across the country. Anybody can request me, and I'll come play for you, so that's a lot of fun. Anyway, that's where you can find me.
And with that, you can find me on Tape Productions as the host Rankum every week. Next week, we're doing Top Shelf from Bacon Movies. And then the week after that will be the 300th episode, which I will not going to announce anything about that. I'll announce that next week. But you can also find me popping up on the Movie Hero Network from time to time doing tournament fights. I'll be here for Chris Scott's 128. You can also find me hosting trivia on Full Metal. And you can also find me with my own show on my personal YouTube channel, Middle Earth Media, called Spear from the Past, where I spin a wheel full of various WWE, WCW, ECW pay-per-views, and then watch it and then do a review of it with a guest that I know likes wrestling, and then we talk about it. I'll be on tomorrow just before tournament fights, actually doing WCW's Beach Blast 92. The first episode we did was the Great American Bash from 99, which was terrible. So, but with that brings us to the end of this. Until next time, keep being random and ranking stuff.